games. It's ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we're going over the reveals from the newest set, the new ones we've got for the last week since the last video I did covering the reveals. So we've got quite a few to go through, and before we get into it, feel free to like, comment, subscribe to keep updated with my channel as and when my videos as and when they drop, and also don't forget to click that notification bell, because then you'll go ahead and get notifications when my videos do drop, so you can watch it there and then or at a later time that suits you best. So now let's get into the reveals we've had for this last week, and there are quite a few nice ones. So the first thing we're getting is the bases. So FFG went and released the all the rare bases. So rather than getting like one at a time, like over a few weeks, we got all of them in one go on the stream because they wanted to show like how easy it is to generate force and what the rare bases do. So you've already seen with the common bases for blue and green being the ones that are 28 health, and you need to attack with a force unit to gain the force. So that's what all all common bases do in this set. But the rare bases do it a little bit differently, because they've all got 25 health, so all the rare bases have 25 health, and they've also different ways to kind of generate force. So for blue, we've got the Vigilance Temple, and they also kind of tie more with the aspects kind of vibe to go ahead and generate the force. And for Vigilance Temple, it's just when the regroup phase starts, so basically end of turn, if you control a unit with 4 or more remaining HP, the force is with you, you create your force token. So it's pretty easy to do in blue, where you got like quite high health units. It's the only time it's not going to be as viable is against decks that can or like it's aggression, like any deck that's got aggression when it can ping damage on things to make it so then you don't really have the force because you can't keep enough health. And then for Mystic Monastery, it's 25 health, and it just goes in the theme of green having probably the best bases in the game. And its effect is an action, and it literally the force is with you, you create a force token. But you can use this ability no more than 3 times a game. So Mystic Monastery is just instantly just action, gain the force. Don't have to do anything, you just gain the force, and you can only do it 3 times a game. But then if you're a deck where you don't really need the force much, but you need to trigger things like how with like Villainy, you have Count Dooku, which just need the force token to have ambush. If you need it for things like that, then it's a great way to just gain the force and have it for whenever you need it. It's just an action. So just like the set 1 bases, you just gain the action to just, well, you just use an action to do it. This is quite an easy one to do. So it's probably the best one to do, and it goes with theme with green having the best bases at the moment. And then we go into red, and like we can see red's base. So red's common base is Fortress Vader. So Vader's fortress on Mustafar. And once again, like the ever common base, it ties in with just when a friendly force unit attacks, the force is with you. You basically create your force token. But for the rare base of Temple of Destruction, it kind of, well, the rare base for red is Temple of Destruction, same 25 health as all the rare bases, and it kind of has the same thing same thing as the common bases, but it's focused on not needing it's basically the same, but you don't need a force unit to attack, because its effect is when a friendly unit deals 3 more combat damage to an enemy base, the force is with you, create a force token. So it's not really great, because if you've seen things like the Cassian leader for set 1, that isn't that great, because requiring to do a certain amount of damage to a base by attacking, or just, with a unit, is just not feasible, because there's some decks that just stop you, or aim of some games that just controlling the board and stopping that from happening. So if you can't do this consistently, which is going to be, it allows you to have more diverse in that you don't need to have a force unit attack, just any unit, a little bit easier, but then you still got to attack and do a certain amount of damage to base. If you only do 2 damage, that's not enough. You need to do 3 damage to be able to do that. So not the best, probably the worst ones out of the rare bases, but then that kind of ties in once again just how green has like the best rare bases. Red, outside attacking town, doesn't have great when it comes to rare bases. And then the last of the bases we have is yellow. So once again we see yellow's common base being Crystal Caves. Really nice art, it looks really sweet, and same effect as it has with all the common bases. But for the rare base of yellow, once again 25 health, and it's an action where you need to exhaust a friendly unit, so you need to exhaust one of your own units as the action. and then the force with you create the token. So kind of goes in with yellow's kind of theme of disrupting, but you're tapping your own units, like we've seen with some other cards in yellow, where you tap your own units to do it, and then you generate the force by doing that. So by just tapping your unit, you gain the force. So it's not too bad. It means you don't have to attack to do it. You just have to have a unit on board. As long as you can exhaust it, you can then go ahead and gain the force that way. So not too bad, but not as not as easy as green and blue it is at generating force. So I think it's like with the kind of levels it goes, green is simple, it's actually gain the force. Blue has a more great way to do it, just at the end of the turn you gain the force from that way, so you got it ready to use for next turn. Whereas with yellow is probably the next best one, you tap your own units to gain the force, but then you don't get to attack or anything like that. And then red is probably the least of those. So that's the basis. Now let's have a look at some of the leaders we've got for this past week as well. So for one of the leaders we've got from the reveals, we've got the first heroic red leader. So I don't know if we've got all of the heroic, or I don't know if we've got all of the red villain leaders, because where we've got now, we've got one leader in heroism and one leader in villainy for the set as well. I think the starter decks cover one of the leaders in that aspect. So mold covers one of the two leaders we normally got on the set for villainy and red. So I think that's covered there. But then Kit Fisto is our first of the heroic aggression leaders. So 5 cost deploy, 1/6 when he deploys is not great, and is all about focusing on the Jedi trait for this one, because he's a Force Jedi Republic, so never one of his leaders, and never a leader that is instantly taken down by Execute Order 6/6. I imagine that's pretty funny because he is taken out by that. I think he is. Pretty sure he is. And when in the leader area, he's got an action where by paying 1 and tapping him, if you can attack with a Jedi unit this phase, you get to deal 2 damage to a unit. So still, you got to pay 1, so you got to be a resource behind to trigger this, and you got to specifically attack with a Jedi unit. But luckily, we're getting a lot more in this set, which is cool, and deal 2 damage to a unit, which is not too bad. And then when he's deployed, it's not that great because he comes down as a 1/6, but his power is dependent on what you have. Because he does have Saboteur, so he can ignore shields and bypass sentinels. And having 6 health is not too bad because it means he's out the range of things like takedown, but still within range of Order 66. And his power can be boosted from 1 to actually better levels by his effect, where this unit gains extra 1 power for each ever friendly Jedi unit. So if you have a lot of Jedi on board, he gets more powerful. So the more Jedi you have, the more powerful he gets. But he's still, unless you can get that, and if remember some games are just won by just like control on the board. So if you can't get many Jedi's out, he just sticks around as a very weak leader, which just makes him not very good. Like, to me, it doesn't seem that great, but we'll have to see how many more Jedi we can get, see if any of them can actually help him out a little bit, or if he even gets his own lightsaber, maybe. So yeah, Kit Fisto is an interesting one, but doesn't seem that great from the first initial look. And for the second one we've got for the leaders so far for this week, we have Grand Inquisitor being the first of the yellow villainy side, so the Cunning Villainy or yellow-black. And he's quite an interesting one. So never Inquisitor one, and just like the other Inquisitor, he is susceptible to takedown because he's got 5 health when he deploys, but he's a 3/5, so a little bit less powerful than the third sister, but a little bit more health, and he does come in shielded, so when he does deploy, he comes in with a shield, which is good, so he's protected at least from damage that way. So he doesn't have hidden, but has a shield. And on attack, he uses the defender -2 power for this attack, so he makes things weaker when he attacks into him, which is pretty cool. Quick to deploy as well, so another 5 deploy leader, which is pretty good. It's not nice kind of amount of resources you want to deploy, and he's one of the leaders. I think every aspect combo, so being like villainy hero in that aspect, will have one leader use the force and one leader probably not using the force. And from Grand Inquisitor, his action is to use the force by tapping and use the force, and then you get to attack with a friendly unit, and then the defender gets -2 power for that fit attack. So you can allow one of your units to attack into another unit and make it so their unit's weaker, so you don't take as much damage back, which is pretty nice. You use the force up, but if you're attacking with a force unit, you don't get the force back from attacking if you're on those force common bases. So I think he's too bad. Like, I like the fact that you compare him with red and get the fallen lightsaber on and things. I'm always thinking about things like that when it comes to dark side. What can I put on a fallen lightsaber on? Because I do love the saber upgrades. It's just one of my favorite ones, and that'll make him up to a 6/8, which is still not too bad, and shielded, and then do more damage and take less damage back, which is pretty cool. So I'll be looking forward to see what kind of Force cards, Imperial, or even Inquisitor stuff we get for this in this aspect combo in the set. Because so far we haven't had many of the Cunning stuff, but we've had quite a few of the Ever aspects so far. So that's in Grand Inquisitor. Now we're getting to look at some of the sets in the deck, well, in the set, and we'll start off with Vigilance. So with the Vigilance cards, we have, first of all, we have the Heroic one and a Villainy one in Pong Krill, being the Villainy because he is a Force Jedi. So I remember in the, what was it, the article giving some hints about the set, there was a mention about a Villainy Jedi, and that is Pong Krill. If you haven't seen, I think it's Rebels? No, Clone Wars, I think it is. And he is a Jedi who is just was throwing away clones to just basically having the highest death rate in clones under his command. And then it turned out that he's he's not a good guy. So he is a villainous Force Jedi, which is good. And he's pretty nice. He's a 7-cost 2/9 with grit, so the more damage he takes, the stronger he gets. And he's got a great effect where when this unit completes an attack and survives, so he's got to actually survive the attack and not just die to it. Then you can defeat a unit with less remaining HP than this unit's power. And so he gets grit after the attack, so using his complete attack, so which then he'll take damage and gain power from grit. Well, yeah, gain power due to grit from the damage. Then he'll be able to take out more things, which is pretty cool. Just the only thing is he's quite high costing at 7, which makes sense because in his stats, and he can survive like at least one hit when he swings into something. But then without ambush, so unless you put it with I think Piet, the unit Piet, to be able to like have an ambush and use it away, he's not as fantastic. But still, it's pretty good if you can have him survive. He can potentially come down and like, clearing things, which is really cool. They won't hit much for the first one, but you can then start clearing stuff, which is pretty cool. You can even use timing of him, which is not too bad. Then we got Yaddle. So this is one of the many now 2/4s we're getting for each. I think each aspect is going to get a 2/4, a 2-cost 2/4, which is because they're buffing up the stats for the units, which is pretty nice. So Yaddle being a 2-cost 2/4 for Heroics out of blue, and having Restore, and also on attack being to give all Ever Jedi for this phase Restore 1. So that's pretty cool. Give us more healing. Very good turn 1 play to keep a unit on board for the first turn. Still, against those Tarkin Town decks, it's not going to be enough because that 1 ping and then 3 damage from Tarkin Town still going to take him out. But then that's used up, and Tarkin Town decks aren't as as scary as they were when we had Django. So yeah, like Django's the primary user. I mean, outside of that, we've only really got I'm trying to think of, we got Quinlan and Cad as the only ones I've really seen nowadays using competitively, but still a pretty good unit and a nice one to get some more like low-cost Force units that are pretty good for those kind of decks. And then for our other ones we have Ogdo Bogdo, Curate Imwe, and Crushing Blow being our Ever Blue cards. And these are pretty cool. Like Ogdo Bogdo's a really cool one. It's a 3-cost 5/5, so a really good stats for its cost. But it does have a high drawback. You can't have like stats like that on a cheap cost without some kind of drawback. And the drawback for him is this unit can't attack unless it's damaged. So it needs to be damaged to it, but it's very easy and it's easy enough to do. And then when this unit attacks and defeats a unit, heal 2 damage from this unit. So whenever it defeats a unit, it gains it starts getting that healing on itself. So once it's healed up, it then needs to be damaged, it'll attack again. So it's not too bad. Like most decks is not the greatest in because it can do damage, but then you got things like Set 2 Hand, which can then play out on turn 1 as a 5/3, so 5 power 3 health because it takes 2 damage, and then it'll attack straight away, and as soon as it hits first thing, it's then healed back up. So you can use it in that, which is pretty cool. And you can also use it in like Quinlan as well. If you want to go blue Quinlan, you can have him damage. I think he might be able to damage himself. I don't know. I can't remember if Quinlan says enemy unit, but he might be able to damage itself. And the other way you can play it is in Kazuda. If you go Kazuda blue, because then you can ignore the effects on it, make it skills. So it's just a 5/5. Turn 2 5/5 that doesn't have any skills, so it can attack without needing to worry about damage, which is pretty cool. Then we have Chirrut, and Chirrut's a 4-cost 3/5, a Force unit, a Sentinel as well, so it's not too bad. Not the best stats for a 4-cost, but still, the health's decent, the power's kind of lacking, but this unit has a way to kind of use the Force, where when this unit is attacked, before damage is dealt, you can use the force, so losing up your force token, and if you do the attacking into him, gets -2 power for that attack. So you take less damage from attack by using the force. But then, like, it depends. Like, not all things are taken up by damage. Like, you can have it bounced away by yellow. You can have it damaged by effects, or like effect damage by red, and then blue can just outright take it out by effects, which is like the many ways you can take it out. But still, if it's defending itself, it's not too bad. But it's not the best, but it's pretty cool. And I do love Chirp. But then, yeah, it's not the most amazing unit. And then the last of the blue cards we've got was Crushing Blow. So this is a free cost event that just allows you to defeat a non-leader unit that costs 2 or less. So a good way to take out the opponent's opponent's turn 1 play if they haven't been on ramping out something a little bit higher. So normally you can use this on turn 2 to take out your opponent's turn 1 play, which is pretty good. Like, more ways to take out those pesky Dr. Pershings and stuff like that is pretty cool. It was like L3s that are shielded 2-drops, or Crafty Smuggler is pretty nice. So that is blue. Now let's have a look and see what we've got for green. So starting off with the heroic side of green, we've got 4 new heroic green cards, which are pretty cool. We've got Eefkoff, we've got Keller and Beck, well, I think it's called Keller and Beck. We've got Paladin Training Corvette, and then Luminous Beings. So 3 units being 1 space and an event. And Eefkoff is a pretty nice one. It gives us another kind of way to ramp within heroic side, because when it comes to ramping green, because green is the ramp aspect, we've got resupply as our generic ramp that any side of the aspect can use. But then you got the better ramping on the dark side, because you've got things like Super Laser Tech, which is an easy way to trigger. Whereas in the heroism side, you do have the Spark of Hope, which is an event that requires you to have lost a unit this turn. One of the units be defeated, so you can ramp it into your resources. And then you've got the Marauder, which requires something on board that had something on board having a never version of the never copy of the card in discard to ramp that one from discard. So not the easiest ways to trigger it. But then we've got Eefkoff being a nice one, where a 4 cost 5 force, so pretty good stats for its cost. And when defeated, where you can use the force if you do resource it. So when defeated, you can resource it as long as you have the force, and that's not too bad, because as long as you can generate force, and if you're on those decks which doesn't need the force like continually for their leaders or things like that, then you can just generate the force, then play this out, and then as long as you don't use up the force, as soon as this dies, which opponent's not going to want to keep a 5/4 lying about, just hitting you constantly, then you can go ahead and ramp it. And even if you can't, for some reason, get the force, or you need something to attack with, is the force unit itself, so you can always attack and generate the force that way. Then we have Keller and Beck, being a very nice 7 cost 7/7, so a very good one. Doesn't have ambush or any other skills like that, but does have a really nice one played. Almost similar to Home 1, in that when played, you can look at the top 7 cards of your deck and reveal it. Well, search for a deck for it, search the top 7 cards of your deck for a unit, reveal it and play, and it costs 3 less, and put the other cards at the bottom of your deck in random order. So just like how Home 1, when you play it out, you can play out a unit from somewhere, Home 1 being from discard, Keller and Beck being something from the top 7, and play it out with a free cost reduction on its cost. So if it costs 3 or less, you get to play it for free. If it costs anything more, it's got a cost reduction to its cost. So if you've got the resources, you can play out something bigger from it as well. So there's another one really nice there, be able to get you more units on board. And a very good choice for this is Millennium Falcon if you're playing Cunning with it as well, because you can get it out straight out. You can play a 7/7 out, and then play out the Millennium Falcon, so you attack straight away. And then you've got 10 costs on board from that, which is very nice. So a really good card, and a nice little uncommon, which is really, really cool. Then we've got Paladin, I keep saying Paladin, but it's a Paladin Trading Corvette, a 5 cost 3/5 ship, so not the greatest stats for its cost, but it's a Jedi Republic vehicle and capital ship. And when played, it allows you to give an experience token to up to 3 force units. If you have managed to, across the first 3 turns of the game, played out force units and they stick around, you can use this to give an experience, but I don't think that's worth the cost and the stats of the card. So not the most amazing. In like draft or sealed, that might be decent, but in competitive, that's not going to be great. And you've got Luminous Beings. So this is a 6 cost event that allows you to put up to 3 force units from your discard power bank on the bottom of your deck in a random order, and then give that many units up to the number of units you put that had force that you put on the bottom of your deck, 4/4 boost for that phase. So it's like another version of what's the card called? Unity Purpose. But it's more on heroic side rather than double green, so you have to go double green for this, but you have to go the heroic side of green. And you don't get to give all your units a boost, and it's a guarantee. You get to give units a boost, but not all of them, just 3. And rather than give them a boost depending on how many different names you have, you give them more. You give up to 3 guaranteed 4/4 for the boost. So it's a guaranteed number, but not across all your units, just 3 of them. And you need to put up the 3 force units to get the full amount. So you need at least 3 force units in your discard, and it's got to be force units. So it's kind of not as great, but still it could be something useful. And given that Unity of Purpose is going to be in this block, it's going to be around the same time. So always got to compare it to that, and Unity of Purpose is going to be a lot better. So that's heroic stuff. And then for the other stuff we got, so we haven't seen. Well, we did get one Villainy one, but we'll see that in a little bit. But we got these ones that are the normal side of command. We've got 2 units, being Maz Kanata and Village Tender, which is a Wookiee. Well, no, Ewok, sorry, not a Wookiee, Ewok. And then we've got 2 events. So Maz Kanata's a pretty nice one, and it's the same as kind of what we've seen before, where it's a unit, it comes into play, and as you attack with a unit, and as long as it's got a certain trait or certain kind of thing, then it can get a boost to attack. And Maz Kanata is a 3-cost 3/4, it's a pretty solid stats, and when played, you can attack with a Force unit, and it gets 2+ power for that attack. So pretty standard, pretty good. And with more force units, you get more benefit of it, which is really nice. Village Tender is a pretty nice one. It's a 1-cost 1/3 with hidden, so it can be attacked during it's played, and restore 1, which is pretty cool. So it's a pretty solid one, and a very good one for Ray Green, because the never cheap costing card you can then boost up with Ray, and it can't be taken out the same turn it's played, so attacked into, which is cool. And then it allows you to get that on the first turn, play it out, not worrying about it being attacked into, and then boost it with Ray to make it to a 2/5, and then turn 2 you get to make it into a 2/4 and into a 3/5, which is pretty good stats. Well, really. And then you've got the 2 events being directed by the Force and Nimian Strike, both force focus cards, because one's a Force card and one's needs a Force unit for it. So directed by the Force is a 1-cost event that is a way to generate the Force as well, because then you use it, the Force is with you, so you create your Force token, and then you can play a unit from your hand, paying its cost. So it's a way to generate the Force and play out a unit out. So it's similar to some other things we've had where you pay 1 and play out a unit and get a certain kind of boost, be it a shield on a unit, an experience, or things like that. But this is a way to do the same thing but generate the Force. So you pay 1 more to the cost of the card you want to play out and gain the Force. So the handy one to have out if you're not playing a Force focus base, to get the Force if you need it. And Nimian Strike is a 1-cost event that allows you to attack with a Force unit, even if it's exhausted, so it's similar to Dogfight, and it gets 1 power for that attack and can't attack bases. So pretty nice, and that's a very good one for those Force units that have Overwhelm, so you can still pierce damage through to the base, but then take out the units. So that is the command stuff, and we'll get into the aggression stuff now. So for aggression, we've got some villainy stuff. So we've got Acolyte of the Beyond being a nice 2-drop, 2-drop villainy card in aggression. We've got a Strike Ship also being a nice 2-drop in the same aspects. We've got Sith Hologram being a nice upgrade, and then Purge Trooper as a 3-cost for a turn 2 play. So Acolyte of the Beyond is one of those pretty handy 2-drops that helps you generate the Force, where it's not a Force unit, so you can't use the Force bases to attack with it and gain the Force, but it can still attack and gain the Force, because it's got the ability where on attack or when defeated, the Force is with you. You create your Force token. So it's a very good way to generate the Force just by playing it out and knowing you're going to get the Force, because even if they defeat it, you're going to gain it. And if they don't, you're going to attack with it and gain it that way. So it may not have the Force trait to benefit from that, but it does have the Sith traits. So it has some cool shenanigans with Nala, Tilden, and Darth Maul, which is something I do want to try out. And it's got all right stats at 2/3. But the main thing is that it's going to be a really easy and good way to get out of Force in the heroic side of red, well, the villainy side of red. And then Strike Ship's a pretty cool one. It's a 0 power, 3 health unit, and the first Nile, I think, or Nil card, which I think is something from the High Republic and from the Calcastus games, which I think from this set, the Calcastus they got in this set, I think is going to be from Fallen Order and not Survivor, which I haven't played, but I'm going to be still trying to get the games so I can play it, which is pretty cool. And this one has Raid 3 and Overwhelm. So the nice thing about this, you won't actually think is a good Grand Inquisitor. Like if you see a aggression villainy unit that has 3 less power and a good effect like raid 3 and stuff like that, you normally think Grand Inquisitor can make use of that. Even though it doesn't really see play or see much play at all, even casually, it's still one thing you look at and think good to think Grand Inquisitor, even though it doesn't receive play. Then we've got Sith Holocron being a nice 1-cost upgrade. You can only attach it to a Force unit, so it's got to be a Force unit on, but luckily get more, and it gives a 1/1 boost to the unit. And also gives it an on attack where you may deal 2 damage to a friendly unit, and if you do, you get extra 2+ power for that attack. So it's a way to kind of damage your friends to then go ahead and get more power. So how the Sith kind of function, and consider it does have the Sith trait as well. So that's pretty cool. And then we got Purge Trooper being a nice one, a free cost 4/2, so more power than its health. And when played, you can deal 2 damage to a Force unit. So if you, that's not as great because you got if you're not playing against any Force decks, it's kind of irrelevant. Or your opponent doesn't play a Force unit, it's kind of relevant. It's just a free cost 4/2 that's nothing. But if you're playing the Force, you can do some damage to it, which is pretty nice, but not great. But it's going to be good for sealed, given that power. And then for the other side of aggression, we've got some heroic units and some non-heroic units, but some Force cards. So we got Adigalia, Kit Fisto's Aether Sprite, Witch of the Mist, and Infuse Brawler. So it's a good Force unit, some early ones that you can then generate the Force with by using those common bases to attack with. And we got Adigalia being a 2-cost 2/4, being another one of those units you can get turn 1 for the Force to generate it, so you can get it survive and then attack the generated Force. And it's a pretty cool ability when your opponent plays an event, you deal 1 damage to that player's base. So against event-focused decks, you're going to deal damage for that way, which is pretty nice, and solid stats for its cost. Kit Fisto's Aether Sprite, which is a pretty nice one, a 5-cost 4/5 with Saboteur, and when played, you may defeat any number of upgrades on a unit. So it's like when rotation hits, this is going to be the replacement Sabing Fang Fighter for heroic decks, because yeah, it does the same thing of knocking off an upgrade, but at a much higher cost, but with better stats. So that's pretty nice there. Then we've got Witch of the Mist being a 1-cost Force unit for red, a 1/3, so decent amount of health and power. Well, some power, decent amount of health, and has hidden, so it can be attacked at the same turn. So hopefully you can have it survive, so you can actually attack and get your Force token from that. And then we have Infused Brawler, which is a 2-cost 2/2 Force Knight. So it's got those nice traits, and you kind of need the Force to trigger its when played, which is you may use the Force, so use your Force token, and if you do, you give it 2 experience tokens for this unit. So it can be a 2-cost 4/4 if you have the Force already. So that's pretty interesting. But it's then got a kind of downside to its effects, given that like it's infused with magic, it's going to go against it, and that is when this unit completes an attack, you must defeat an experience token on it. So those you don't just get play out for 2 or 4/4 by using the Force. It is going to start losing its power by every time it attacks, you defeat an experience token on it, which means it isn't going to last long, but long enough for you to get back that Force token. So some really interesting cards in red, and yeah, looking forward to more of the cards. But now let's have a look and see the last aspect we've got in Cunning. So for Cunning, first we'll start with the heroic cards, and we've got Youngling Padawan, Depa Bilaba, I think, yeah, Bilaba. And then we've got the J-type Nubian Starship, and then Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber. So I know there's going to be a lot of lightsabers in this set. We've already seen, Qui-Gon's lightsaber. We've seen Darth Revan's lightsaber. I think there's only 2 we've seen. I don't think we have seen many more, but yeah, they look pretty cool. And I do like the whole lightsaber. I might actually start collecting all the different lightsabers for like a little collection in my binder. That'd be pretty cool. But we got some pretty nice units here. We got Youngling Padawan as the 2-drop for this set to gain the Force, whereas a 2-cost 2/3 and gain the Force, but just one played, you gain the Force. So pretty nice there. Just instantly give you the Force, which is cool. And then we have Depa Bilaba, I think it is. I'm not very great with the names. There's a 6-cost 5/7 with ambush. You can attack straight away, which is cool. So you can come down, attack, and generate Force straight away. And then has also a Saboteur, so you can ignore shields and even Sentinels as well, which is cool. So very, very good stats to have on that card. Like usually it's something you might want on a 5-cost for a leader. Wow, it'd be too powerful for a 5-cost on a leader, but still very good stats for its cost with ambush. A very nice card. And we got J-type Nubian Starship being a pretty cool one. A 3-cost 2/4. When played, draws a card, and when defeated, discards a card from your hand. So similar to that 2-cost Senator, we had in, might have been set 3, where it comes down to draw a card, but when defeated you discard a card. But the nice thing about this is that with things like Qui-Gon, you can make use of the, like, have the when played, but then ignore the when defeated by bouncing it back to play out a 2 cost or less. So you get the when play draw card, but then you bounce it back to play out a 2 cost, and then not have to worry about being defeated because it's been bounced back to hand. So nice things there, but even then, discarding a card can help you set up things like the Anakin Legendary, where you can play it out, draw a card, and then have it be defeated. When it's defeated, you can discard a Villainy card if you need a Villainy card in your discard pile, so you can get the full -6/6 from Anakin, which is pretty nice. A nice little combo there. I think Qui-Gon's lightsaber, even though it's Qui-Gon's lightsaber and Qui-Gon's pretty cool, it's not a very good lightsaber. It's not got a very good effect. It's short. It's a 2 cost free one, or like the specific lightsabers for certain leaders, like the named lightsabers, like Luke's and Vader's stuff. Normally, all 2 costs is only more that's higher costing because it's got more stats to it. But then, yeah, most of the named ones, most of the named ones are more like cheap ones, but then only get an effect when they're equipped to that specific kind of character. And while it does give 3 extra power and 1, turning into a 7/8 if you do equip to the Qui-Gon leader, it's not a great effect because when played, if the attached unit is Qui-Gon Jinn, you may exhaust any number of units combined with a cost of 6 or less, which is not the best because you've got to equip it to a certain leader. 6 or less, you can hit a few maybe, not too much, but then it's not the best one because it's just got a one use effect. Well, at least with Vader, when it did give a Vader's you don't often use it, but then when you do, you get to do 4 damage to something, so it actually removes something rather than just type it down. And Luke, you get to give a shield, like heal him and give a shield to him, which is very, very strong. And even with Maul, you get to attack straight away and have overwhelm and give a huge buff and full power as well to it, which is really nice. Whereas this just is kind of lacking in terms of lightsabers. And then for the other cunning cards, we've got the Legacy Run, being our space unit, another legendary we've got. We've got Sheen Fury. Sheen Fury. We've got Impossible Escape and the Will of the Force. These are more like Force-focused cards where they either need a Force unit or you need to use the Force. So more like Force cards, which I was thinking they might be lacking, but then we haven't seen many cunning cards. I think there's less cunning cards in this set than the other aspects. But these are more Force-focused stuff. Some uncommons and uncommons. Now, Sheen Flurry is basically a timely intervention for yellow. So yellow gets a timely intervention, being a 1-cost event that can allow you an ambush. And in this one, it's a but it's more for Force units. So it's a 1-cost event that allows you to play a Force unit from your hand, still paying by its cost. You don't get to pay things for free unless it says so, which is also, they always put that thing in paying its cost. It gains ambush for this phase, but then, additionally the next time it would be dealt damage by this phase, you prevent 2 of that damage. So it's like a timely invention, but instead of being able to use it on anything, it's only on Force units. So it's more focused to, it's like a Force units, timely invention for Force units. Still uses ambush like timely invention does, but instead of being smuggled out, it's got an extra benefit of preventing damage from the next time it would damage that phase. So pretty good. It might even be a better timely because you don't really care too much about it being smuggled in, but then sometimes something is useful to smuggle in, or you can use it later. But this is a very good card. Then we got Impossible Escape, being a 1-cost Force event. This is one that you can. It's like a. It's the other one that's like Waylay. This one is allowing you to either exhaust a friendly unit or use the Force. You can have it. So you don't have to use the Force for this, but you can. You can either exhaust one of your units or use the Force instead of exhausting a unit. And if you do, you can exhaust an enemy unit and then draw a card. So you either pay 1 and then tap on your units, tap on your opponents down and draw a card, or use the Force and tap on your opponents and units and draw a card. Not too bad, it replaces itself and also taps something down, and if you got no everything to use the Force for, that could be a good reason to. And we got Will of the Force, a 4-cost event that is like a new version of Waylay for when it rotates out from rotation, and that is, it allows you to return a non-leader unit back to his owner's hand, just like Waylay does. But then you can also then use the Force, so use your Force token, and if you do, you make that that player you bounce the card back to, basically discard a random card from the hand. So it costs 1 more than Waylay, so it's a bit more costly, but it allows you to bounce back any card just like Waylay does, and also use the Force and then get an additional discard from your opponent's hand, so they don't gain something back to the hand. They gain something, but they have to discard. But then and it's random as well. So it's not they get to choose; it's a random card for a hand, not a choice. Just like how Cunning is, which is pretty cool. So it's got like half of Cunning's effects on it in one, which is cool. So that's the Cunning cards, and we do have a little bit. So see the last few cards that kind of don't have space for to put with the other ones, and also we've got from the reveals. So for the last ones, we've got some Villainy cards, being Dengar Spawn, which it didn't really matter. Well, I couldn't really put it in together with the other ones to make it so it's a decent viewing on the screen. Aura Sing being a new turn 1 unit in like the 4 health turn 1 units, and then Kaido Run as a good force unit as well for turn 1. So Dengar Spawn is one of those another creature that you can kind of get more benefits out of that. I can't remember what his name is now. The 2-cost what's it, Rancor trainer. So you can kind of play it cheaper because it's a 4-cost free, but with that unit on board that you play turn 1, it reduces the cost on the next creature you play by 1. So you can then play this on turn 2 as a free cost. And it has Overwhelm, and when this unit attacks and defeats a unit, you can give a number of experience tokens to this unit equal to the defeated unit's cost. So the more things it defeats, the more stronger it gets, which is pretty nice. If you can heal it off, you can keep getting that experience, making it so you can keep more and more for and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's pretty cool. And we got Aura Sing being a 2-cost 1/4. It has hidden as well, so it can be attacked at the same turn it's played. And also has Raid 2, so what it's only got 1 power, it then swing and hit for free. And that's pretty nice. And also Underworld and Bounty Hunters, so you can have those. Now they're 2 of them shenanigans, which is pretty good for Cunning since they're in the same aspect. And then we got Kylo Ren. So this is a 2-cost 2/3. A never force you can play turn 1 for the Villainy side, so any Villainy deck can play this. Has Overwhelm, so it does piercing through units to their base. And also has a when you play an upgrade on this unit. So an upgrade could be a experience. It could be I think it counts experience and shields in any upgrade you play on it, because I think they're technically are token upgrades. Then you can use the force, and if you do, you draw a card, which is pretty nice. You can use the force and then draw more cards, and you can attack with them, gain the force back. So it's pretty cool, pretty nice, and I've been using this in Darth Revan just because it's a turn 1 force unit. You can use attack, gain the force, and have those force benefits. But that is it. That's for the reveals we got today. Some pretty nice ones. Some interesting leaders in Grand Inquisitor and Fisto. That's the one. It's pretty forgettable, which is a shame. But yes, pretty nice ones. I'm like every time we get reveals, I'm getting hyped for the set, and I'm looking forward to testing it and even testing decks now. Just get ready for it because I'm not really. This set with like Space Focus wasn't like wasn't most exciting to me, but with the Force unit, I'm hyped for that, so I'm ready to go full in, get at least a card box, maybe a box or 2 as well of the set, and build some really sick Force decks with some of these new leaders and stuff, and some of these new cards. So that's it for me today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you're looking forward to the set, what you like for these reveals, and also if there's anything you want to see on the channel, comment that down below. But outside of that, I'm off now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.